Welcome to Tandem Radio Live. I'm your host, Glenn DeLakian, along with Peter Grandich, and together we hope to help you walk in integrity as you do business every day. The concept of our show is to interact with those who have questions about commerce and business. Perhaps you're an entrepreneur or want to be one, and you wish to perform better at work or in ministry. Week to week, we'll pull from our experiences and the experiences of our guests who join us and answer the questions that you have. We believe the Christian walk is 24/7 journey, and the old adage of all is fair in love and war is not what Jesus directs us to do in the Word. Many professionals often feel pressure when trying to follow God's teachings and do business in secular environments. We hope to encourage you and show you how to do your best and seek God's guidance every day in your professional and personal lives. We'll open the phones today to callers. If you want to jot the number down, it's 800-575-9564. That's 800-575-9564. And since we're streaming live on the internet, you can also email your questions in to at tandemradio.com. That's www.tandemradio.com. And later in the show, we'll get to segments where we'll take your questions and emails. Today's topic is technology and innovations, and we'll see in a few minutes what the Bible has to say about science and inventions. And today, as I said, we're here along with Peter Grandich, who's our regular commentator on the show. And Peter, we're going to talk about technology. What's your thoughts on technology and business?
Well, since I was brought kicking and screaming into the 21st century technology, see that little yellow pad in front of you?
Right.
That was the extent of my technology. Technology has really, I think, and I would argue that the last 10 years has done as much growth as it did the previous 50 or more.
Sure.
And quite frankly, you can see it, someone on me that's on that cuff, in the mid-50s. Most have embraced it at that point, even the 60s and 70s. But the younger generation, that's here to stay. Everything is technology-oriented. And I'm one of those non-tech people. I do text once in a while. I have not Twittered. I don't think I'll ever Twitter. I don't think I'm going to get a BlackBerry, but I am such an exception to the rule. So I think and look forward to discussing, Jeremy, in a few minutes about it, is because it's become an everyday life. For my child, it's just like a pen and pencil was for me.
Sure. I'm kind of a tech phobe myself. People kind of make fun of me because I don't text. I just think it's overdoing it. But you're right. Today's technology, especially with kids, there was a survey done not too long ago by a large company who had a couple of dozen kids that were right out of college. I guess I'm saying kids, but employees that were right out of college. And they had their headphones on. They were listening to music. They were texting with their phone. They were typing on their computers and doing their work at the same time. And the interesting thing was the company took everything away from them and said, just do your work. And then after a week or so, they gave them back the headphones. And then another week, they gave them back the texting. And they found that with all those things going on in their head that you and I see as distractions, they were actually more effective in their work by having all those things going on.
There's only one thing I'm concerned about, and maybe it goes back to our faith, is I'm afraid that with all this technology, there's somewhat sort of humanness that's gone. You could text somebody, just like we all read something in Scripture, we have different interpretations of what it was meant.
Sure.
But the texting, particularly, like you said, you don't like to text and all, I think there's a loss of the personal stuff of people actually speaking and engaging. And you don't see the emotion and all that could be behind the message. Unless you, now, of course, I didn't realize my daughter sent me things. I didn't know what these things were, right. But they meant that. That meant if you put this exclamation point or something, it means like, you're really excited or something.
Sure.
I think the humanness is still something to be questioned, but there's no question now that if you don't have technology, you can't do business.
That's true. And the other thing that concerns me about the technology, a friend of mine brought up the other day, was the effectiveness of people as well. I don't think the focus is there because we're so bent on multitasking and doing so many things, we don't get the details like we used to.
And one quick thing somebody was talking about, the kids were playing the games and all, but he says you can't invent Johnny on the pony. It's kind of not as much fun playing there on the computer as there was somebody jumping on your back. That's one of the things I think technology has taken away for the youth, the ability to make up and imagine playing.
Sure. Well, we have a guest in the studio today, which I'm excited to introduce you to in a second. And as we do each week, we'll be starting off with Scripture and letting you know what our theme is for the day. And the concept here today is that there is innovation, there is technology in the Bible, and it talks about it. And I don't think God would have wrote about it if it wasn't an important part of our life. But in the King James Version of the Word, Proverbs 8:12 says, I, wisdom, dwell with prudence and find out knowledge of witty inventions. So there you go. God talks about wisdom and inventions and things that move forward. There's also a lot of science in the Bible, which I've always found very interesting, which we'll talk about more. But to bracket that, or I should say bookend that, 1 Corinthians 3:6 clearly says, I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the increase. And I think the key to remember is no matter how far we get in technology or how far we get in our own minds, that it's really God that's responsible for the increase. And I think that's what makes all the difference in what we're doing every day. Again, the phones will be open shortly at 800-575-9564, or you can email your questions in at tandemradio.com, and we'd be excited to hear from you. I just want to introduce our guest today, Jeremy Skillings from We Can Be Found. Now, I want to, before Jeremy jumps in here, I just want to say how I met Jeremy. I was actually at a Christian networking group that's actually held by the Bridge FM. They run them regularly, and if you don't belong to a networking group and you're in business, you're missing a huge opportunity. But Jeremy came to me, very highly recommended, and so we used him at one of our companies. And the amazing thing about it was, I'm a very skeptical person. I shouldn't say that, but I'm a show me guy. And so I said to Jeremy, I've been called by dozens of people who do this SEO stuff, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. And I said, what makes you different than everybody else? And long story short, he impressed me, and I said, well, you know what, Jeremy, show me. And so we gave him a shot, and what was incredible is I'll never forget, he says it takes some time to get these things straightened out. We'll talk about that. But he called me one day and he said, Google and the other search engines, today is the day they recognize your company, so you should start seeing some activity. So let me know how your website does. That same day, we got 2 phone calls at our office from people. I should say we got 2 emails at our office from people who found us on the internet. They Google searched us. They found us on the internet. Now, we had never gotten any internet business prior to that date, but that same day, I'll never forget, 2 new facilities called us, and we ended up giving out large proposals to those companies. So it's interesting how this stuff actually works. So I just want to introduce Jeremy Skillings from You Can Be Found. And Jeremy, welcome, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you very much. And just to start off, I appreciate the opportunity because I really believe in what you guys are doing. I think it's a great service to the community. Just a little bit about what I do. I focus on internet marketing, which includes a little bit of what you were just mentioning, the SEO, which is showing up when people are searching for you in Google or Yahoo or Bing or whatever you might be using as your search engine. And then there are other ways to show up on the internet through some people may be familiar with the term AdWords, which is another type of way to show up in those search results, showing up in the maps and things like that. And what I do is I help small businesses at a more affordable level do the things that some of those huge companies are doing out there to get found.
Great. Well, I promise you today, because where Peter and I are at, we're not going to get wild into acronyms and into things that we don't understand. But we're going to. I know Jeremy has a real good sense of how to bring this down to our level as far as technology goes. So, Jeremy, you mentioned SEO, so that's search engine optimization. I know what that means, but maybe you could tell us a little bit more about what that actually is.
Sure. Search engine optimization, and by search engine, that's what I mean. Google, Yahoo, those are search engines. You go in there, you type radio programs in New Jersey, and then you see what comes up. And a lot of us are familiar with that. We call it Googling because Google is so successful at it. And what SEO does is it helps your website show up when people are actually looking for things that are relevant to your business. And Google actually looks at your website, and there are a bunch of different factors they take into account on whether you should rank or not. They want to give good results to the people that are searching their site, so they look at these different factors. There's at least 40 different factors, some more important than others. And what I do is I specialize in taking your factors and make them what Google wants so that you will actually show up higher in the search results.
You know, what's interesting about that is because, like I said, no more encyclopedias, all those things are gone. You can type in anything, any question, any topic, and it'll send you a bunch of topics. And there could be hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of pages of responses to that. Mm. But everybody wants to be on the first page. Right. And there's only like 8, 10, 12, whatever the number is on the first. That, when you think about it, with all those possibilities to get there on the first, there really must be something special to get there. I mean, it's tell me a little bit more of that, because I know there's something that's separating the men from the boys, so to speak, that's getting you on that page.
So that's sort of the beauty of it, and that's how small businesses can take advantage of it.